Welcome to another episode of the Politipop Podcast, the podcast where we read between the lines of our favorite pop culture media and discuss the social and political themes within. I am your only host, Mike Booch, aka the Soy Boy Pseudo-Intellectual, and this week we're switching it up a little bit. We are doing our very first, hopefully last, but very first fireside chat with Mike Booch. That's right, folks. And it's pretty one-sided. Because I didn't tell anyone in advance or get a Q&A scheduled, so this is just me talking about a few random things that I wanted to address in lieu of an actual episode. So the first thing I want to talk about is why we're not having an actual episode. I know a lot of you, all 14 of you, were so excited to listen to our deep dive into The Dark Knight Rises, in which I would undoubtedly defend the villain again, because that's the path I'm on, apparently. Well, what happened is we had a scheduling conflict. I, myself, have actually returned back to work, like some of you folk out there. And, that, in addition to the fact that we have a new addition to the family, we have a dog. She is a lovely, lovely rescue who we've named Charlie, with just an I at the end. She is a lot of work. She is pretty much in a dog body, but doesn't know it yet. She still has a lot of puppy tendencies, and it's adorable. She's like a baby deer, the way that she moves around in her body that she doesn't know what to do with. But yeah, she is very much a puppy, and because of that, and also a rescue, so there's a lot of work to be done. So between that and going back to work, and Ty being someone who actually has been working like a productive member of society this whole time, having his work schedule, we just weren't able to make it work. But we wanted to give you some sort of episode anyway, so with Ty's permission, I am presenting to you just me talking, Mike Booch, in my very first fireside chat, or as it may come to be known in years from now, Mike Booch's manifesto. So here we go. I told you about why we didn't actually have a full-on episode this week. But I did want to address last week's episode, The Dark Knight. I got some criticism from a friend about my defense of Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight. And I also got it during the episode. Ty was like, well, I disagree with your take that, that Joker's trying to build something up in place. I don't think Joker's a leftist. He's not trying to help people, blah, blah, blah. I get that, obviously. I'm still watching the same movie that everybody else is watching. The same movie I have watched many times before. I'm aware that the Joker is a murderer and a villain, and that those are bad things to do. Being villainous and murdering people. But what I am saying is that he had a really great way of exposing the hypocritical nature of the systems that are at work in Gotham, and he was able to manipulate everyone along the way, and he was able to prove that when people were left to their own devices, he said that they would eat each other, which in a lot of ways he was right. The cops were willing to turn on each other, turn on all of their rules and values on a whim as soon as things got bad, and they turned to Batman, and and they also were able to be controlled by the mob because of their various financial issues. So he was right, and that's something that I've just seen in real life. When we see all of our politicians who were pledging allegiance to one particular icon and then turning on that icon to save their own tails, and there's all these people being played against each other, and it just goes to show that when the chips are down, these so-called civilized people, they'll turn on each other. But also at the end of the movie, that with the ferry experiment, all those people were willing to show the Joker that maybe we're not so selfish and maybe we're not so cruel. And I like to believe that personally. I would prefer it. The idea that people are naturally selfless. When you think about it, they are. Our very evolution depended upon our ability to trust and our ability to come together and share resources with one another and communicate and cooperate. That's why we became a civilization. So yes, like at our core, I do think unfortunately once capitalism came into play and people started deciding, they decided that private property was a thing, and apparently you can own a plot of land despite the fact that you're never going to live to see the end of that land. Like, people became more obsessed with hoarding resources and controlling it and controlling them as opposed to just sharing them with each other and being able to truly prosper that way. So, I'm not saying the Joker is like this leftist who's trying to help people. No, he says introduce a little anarchy. He is all about anarchy, about there not being a system, and it doesn't even seem like he's interested in the people governing themselves. He's interested in just people doing whatever they want at any time and proving him right. Where I think he's trying to expose the corruption of the system and, hopefully tear it down. I don't think he has any aspirations about building anything up in its place. So maybe I should have said that. We haven't really talked about politics broadly recently, as we've been going into various themes and different works. Oh, speaking of which, I do want to say that also this isn't really BatMonth, it turns out, so we don't have to give a Batman episode this week anyway, so that's a relief. But I did want to talk real quickly about, I don't know, just politics in general, I guess, and how, I don't know, I wish I weren't proven right time and again, but I am, that we really shouldn't be putting our faith in people like as symbols. We should really be putting our faith in ideals. And, if we're moved by those, if we're moved by doing the right thing regardless of who's at the helm, I don't think we can go wrong that way. And, we kind of stopped talking about the president once Biden became it or him. I don't think that's on purpose. I think he has continued to be just as terrible as we thought he would be. He's already been bombing other countries, setting up new facilities to keep kids in. Not really stepping up to do anything about Israel's continued occupation of Palestine. I guess it just sucks that, like, the system is the way it is, that, like, you do have some good people in there. Like, we were talking, we talk about the Squad now and again, and AOC specifically, and how, like, she ran on this so-called progressive platform, and then, it seems that she didn't change the Democratic Party, it changed her. She still stepped up and, spoke truth to power about what was going on with Palestine, along with Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. But I don't know. So I guess things just feel kind of hopeless for me sometimes when I think about the power structure, because, like, we want to inject new blood into our government and hope that the system works and hope that we can vote in the right people, but, like, they're constantly trying to stop progress. And, like, when you really think about it, when you think about the history of it all, this is a structure that is based on settler colonialism, and no matter what we build over it, like, that's what it's going to be. It's always going to be based off of colonizers, racists, the worst of the worst. And, we believe in this image of our country because they're the ones who built it for us. Like, but they built the image of it. Sorry, the actual country itself was built by people of color who were enslaved and forced to build it. And then, of course, people of every color who were part of the working class. But it's just difficult to try and grow something beautiful when the soil is so tainted. Like, we still operate on slave labor. as a country. We do. It's just morphed itself into the prison industrial complex. We still have no choice but to elect the worst people into the positions of power because, they anyone who has a shot, they steal it from. It's wild. I heard that Trump is being deplatformed again and again now, not just on Twitter, but like his blogs and everything are being shut down. And well, I think it's funny. I also think it's kind of scary because like they just saw the sway that this man had with so many people. And yes, his message was straight fucking garbage. But also, what if somebody had a good message to send? Can they be deplatformed the same way? I don't know. Like, I'd like to think that Trump's message, his message is so stupid that there's no way it could have a chance again. But apparently he's that dangerous. But also, his message is very American, and I think that he just exposed so much that we might have been close to some sort of uprising, and they had to squash it. Those people. I sound like such a conspiracy theorist. But yeah, Biden sucks. A lot of our politicians suck. All of them suck. Everyone's just trying to save their own asses. Just a bucket of crabs, trying to climb on top of each other, pull the others down on the way to the top. I was thinking recently about work, as I've gone back to do it. And, while my job is pretty fulfilling, I'm going to be honest with you, not working much for the past year. I've been doing odd jobs and gigs here and there, but, just pretty much collecting unemployment and being bored. Like it really fucked me up mentally. I think it's because, I've been working since I was 12 years old and I never really had a moment to settle down. And when I finally did for this past year, there's a lot of unresolved issues that came to the surface. And, I'm working through them right now and it feels great. I'm in therapy. I'm not sure if I mentioned this on the podcast, but I did have an emotional breakdown of some sort not too long ago. And, I never really addressed it either. I mentioned it shortly after why, former guest, and poet laureate Frankie Soto is, excommunicado, as they would say in John Wick or any other language. But yeah, he was kind of, part of that breakdown. Like, he wasn't the cause of it, but when he was told about it and it inconvenienced him and his plans, he took everything that he preached about, not being a toxic male and, respecting others' feelings and boundaries and stuff like that. And he dropped it all and immediately made my issues about him. So in case any of you are wondering why he'll never be on another episode or ever be promoted by the podcast again, that is why. But anyway, as I've been cursed with these idle hands and not really doing much work up until recently, I realized that I would love to work. I think people in our nature, it's in our nature to work. I just think the issue is that we are all made to do such meaningless jobs to generate capital for the upper class. None of us are building or growing anything. Some of us are, sure. But a lot of us are just being sent to jobs to sell things, to make money and sell a product and make capital. But, these things are useless overall. How far through the galaxy could we be right now if we focused on what was important? If everyone just took care of each other and we had a communal, we had shelter, we had our needs met, we had food, we had all of our basic needs met. We didn't have to struggle to survive paycheck to paycheck. How far through the cosmos would we be? We're on a spaceship right now, right? It's Earth. Well, what if hypothetically, I'm going kind of Joe Rogan here, but I feel like I'm better. What if, this planet is an actual spaceship, but we're destroying it and it's not healthy enough to actually take us where we need to go. So we're just going around in circles around this star until it explodes or implodes. I don't know what it's going to do at the end of its life cycle. But yeah, I think that we do want to work. I just think that it would be nice if we had our basic needs met and could enjoy being people and being human along the way and interacting with each other and being like emotionally intelligent. What a better world it would be if we like knew how to actually navigate our emotions. I feel like that's why I'm okay with sharing all of my political views and being like, I'm all about communism and stuff like that, because like, I don't know, everything that I believe in, it comes from a place of compassion. It comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of wanting to provide for everybody and for all of us to thrive, just because, we can. Like, we can. Like, as humans in general, like, we have all of the resources. We have unlocked so many amazing wonders in this earth. We have Wi-Fi, for Christ's sakes. It's Wi-Fi and solar power. I think those are both the amazing things. But I don't know. It's beautiful, and like we could provide for everybody. But this imaginary thing called money is what is keeping everyone from progressing. I know before I was talking about like just, feeling hopeless. I want to talk about that a bit more now. And not like hopeless personally. My personal life is actually really great. And a lot of my personal relationships are thriving. And that feels fantastic. But like I was thinking about, COVID-19. All of you have been out there working, wearing masks all the time. And I'm only wearing a mask when I, go grocery shopping and stuff. But now I have to wear a mask all day while I work, and I just feel like so disappointed. Like, I know the government isn't great or competent, but like, what a disappointing thing that we could have had this whole fucking virus taken care of in a couple months if they just took care of everybody and said, stay home. You don't have to worry about basic survival right now. Obviously, the reason they didn't is because people would then realize, oh shit, they can take care of us, A, and B, I'm getting underpaid at work. Maybe I'm on unemployment or something. And C, wow, maybe the system doesn't work as well as I thought it did. I think that's a big issue too, is if people are working like, they're so busy all the time, they don't really have time to analyze the world that they're in. They're just worrying about survival. You're like a little ant. You're not worrying about the ant farm because you're too busy, like, bringing sugar to the queen. Is that what ants do? But not realizing that you're in between two plates of glass. I think that tracks. I don't know. I'm not really going to listen back to this when I edit it, so, enjoy this. But yeah, it sucks. Like, obviously I'm pro-mask. Like, I just wish that we didn't have to wear them. I wish that the CDC would get their shit together too. If they had just, I don't know why they said you can not wear a mask if you're fully vaccinated, because all the people in the first place who were trying not to wear masks, now they just had the excuse. And as soon as you ask if they're vaccinated, oh, it's my freedoms. My freedoms are in danger. Like, man, you have no fucking freedoms. Like, literally, you have to just pay to live, and you have to work in order to pay for your life. Like, you're not free to do anything. But when it comes to communal health, public health, now all of a sudden, your rights your so-called rights are being violated. I don't know. I do love individualism. I do believe each one of us is beautiful and special, but also like you have to think about other people. Like, this whole idea that like, you're the only one who matters is just, mistaken to say the least. But it's just more fulfilling. Imagine not feeling alone. Like, just imagine, living in a world where we all are provided for and can speak with each other and to one another, and like, I know you're thinking like, oh, well, there's some people out there who are criminals and blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, a lot of crime is motivated by desperation. The other crime is motivated by mental illness. Some people legitimately are, fucking monsters, I guess, but you have to think about the circumstances that create those monsters. In a world where everyone is safe and cared for, I think that chance drastically drops. I don't know. I'm talking about this hypothetical world. I don't really have a way to bring it about, but I don't know. It'd be nice. If any of you listeners out there have like a significant sum of money saved up and want to buy a plot of land with me, we could start talking about like, making some sort of commune. And, we farm our own food so we can provide for ourselves and we're self-sufficient and everybody has a job that is tending to the community, but we all get to eat. We all get to sleep under a roof. Maybe there's an Xbox or two. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. It's just kind of disappointing that like there's going to be a whole generation of people who are used to wearing masks all the time. And it sounds kind of weird when I say like, it sounds like I am an anti-masker, but like, and I know that there are other countries in which people wear masks regularly when they, are symptomatic and they're in public around other people, which is just considerate. But like, I think once again, the virus didn't have to get as bad as it did, but it did because of ignorance and politicization. Politicization? Because it was politicized. And, last thing I wanted to talk about, I guess, according to my notes, is, I mentioned Joe Rogan before. Apparently he said, like, with the way cancel culture is, like, no straight white man's ever going to be able to speak again. And, like, okay. I'm for it. That's 100% fine. If for 1 year we didn't have to heed the words of a straight white man, like, they could talk, but like we didn't have to take it seriously at all, the world would improve immensely, I feel. Immensely. Even a gay white man. I know that still puts Pete Buttigieg in there, but like, if we just had POC all the time, being able to have a platform for their opinions, and it doesn't have to be, an extremist view. Then I think, I don't know, maybe we'd be doing a lot better. Who knows? I'm just saying, historically, white men have caused most of the world's problems. Okay? The Spaniards, with Columbus and stuff. Those British people who came over to the North American continent and murdered and manipulated so many indigenous people. I'll share this. It's actually a pretty extremist view. I think it is. I think it sounds really rough when I say it, but like, I'll try to say it as gently as I can. Like, there are so many parts of the world where the course of history has been completely changed due to European, settler colonialism. I know that, like, they're not the only people who have waged wars and raped and pillaged, but, like, where are a lot of the superpowers in the world right now is all I'm saying. And it's just wild knowing, like, what potential there was. And I know, like, nobody's perfect. I know there were indigenous peoples who, also had their own forms of currency and also went to war with each other and stuff. Like, I'm aware of that. But I just think that seeing the earth as a resource instead of a commodity is just such a superior philosophy. And, that I just think that would help everybody. And, once we had religious extremists, preaching, their radical Christianity, and creating the United States. And, once again, religious extremists, like I said, Hispaniola was the first place that Columbus landed and later became the Dominican Republic. And, that's why so many places that aren't Spain speak Spanish, like entire continents and futures that have been changed off the whims of greedy white men. And like, we now think of the United States, and like everywhere I go, I live on Long Island, there's like so many fucking white people. And like, I don't have a problem with white people existing, but it's just wild to see them like just I don't know, out here living their best lives like they're supposed to be here. You know what I mean? Like, I know that sounds extreme, but like, you're not. Like, your ancestors in one way or another have fucking changed everything. Most of the people who live on this continent should look like indigenous peoples. They shouldn't look like Europeans and European descendants. That's what I'm saying. And, obviously there's nothing you can do to change that. You can't undo that. But you can acknowledge a lot of stuff. You can acknowledge history, and you can acknowledge, trying to live a better life and a more inclusive one where you help people of all backgrounds. And you could change the future for the better, I think. But it's just wild, like, I'll just see, like, a group of construction workers, all white guys, with their union jobs and stuff, like, which, whatever, I'm sure they earned it and lived a life and they work fucking hard every day. But they're just completely unaware of the fact that, like, the blood that just that simple and good life is built on. There are people whose descendants never got to live that life. So once again, like, just seeing a white person be like, oh, that's perfectly natural for us to be the majority here. Anytime they see something that's not, like, white normative, they get all freaked out about it. And it's like, you're not the fucking norm. It's weird that you think that. You don't fucking belong here. So we can play this over again when I actually end up running for office and use it to strike all my chances down. Or I get that POC vote, baby. I could do that too. But yeah, that is actually going to be it for this week. I don't believe we have any new reviews. I can always search it up though. Let's do it. Confirmed, there are no new reviews. But I'm going to do my best to update the show notes and sources this weekend and see about getting some video up on the YouTube channel and Facebook page as well. So for those of you who only listen there for some reason, hopefully you enjoy this recent slew of episodes we're throwing at you. And for those of you who sat through the entire episode, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It means a lot that whatever I have to say made it to your ears in the first place, whether or not you heed it or think it's important. But remember, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can rate and review us and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, which would help us quite a bit. Find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter at PolitiPopPod, Instagram at PolitiPopPodcast, and you can always email us at politipopcast@gmail.com to let us know your opinions, I guess, because we want them, supposedly. You can find those show notes and sources I mentioned at politipoppodcast.wordpress.com. And a special thanks to all of you sexy listeners out there, and all of you intelligent listeners. Which should be all of you. You can be both at the same time. Intelligence is sexy. All of you listeners out there, and to Antonia Chava for logo design. For the Politipop Podcast, I've been Mike Booch. And remember, no matter what you're reading, watching, listening to, taking in, take care of yourselves and each other. And never stop thinking, never stop learning, and always remember to read between the lines. And scene? Oh, it felt weirdly natural.